Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Wanted to do a quick video on 3 financial skills that are extremely important for tradesmen. Was thinking a lot today doing the books here in Quickbooks, wrapping up 2020. I often look back at my profit and losses from past years and just kind of see where I've been, where I'm going. It's a good time to reflect. I think there's some good lessons I'd like to talk about here. First though, I want to say thanks to everybody who consistently watches these videos, who's been along for the ride in the comment section. It's been a good year on YouTube. I got my creator numbers back in an email for the year. We added 35,800 new subscribers, 4.4 million new views. And the most important metric to me that I look at is watch time, because that tells me that people are actually taking the time to watch and learning. And hours of watch time, 378,457 hours. So if I would divide that up by 40 hours a week, it would take me 187 years to teach that much. So it's pretty incredible to leverage technology. But I just wanted to say thanks for coming along for the ride. Still got tons more that I want to share on YouTube and hopefully learn from everybody else that watches these videos in the comment section also. So thanks for being a part of this. Really appreciate it. Appreciate all the encouraging comments that I've got over the years. It keeps me motivated and it means a lot. So thanks for that. Reason for this video: 3 different money skills that we need as tradesmen. And I don't think that we look at it this way very often. And whenever I started to think about this and think about these skills, I could see how there are so many traps that we can fall into. And these 3 skills related to money and finances: number 1, making money; number 2, keeping money; and number 3, growing money. If you don't have a complete package and you're not balanced across those 3 different skill sets, it sets you up for failure. And what do I mean by that? Again, skill number 1, making money. You can make all the money in the world, but if you spend more than you make, or you spend what you make all the time, you'll never create margin, because you're not using skill number 2, which is keeping money. So then you've also got the other side of the spectrum. I know a lot of people who are very, very frugal and they pinch their pennies but never increase their income. They never increase skill number 1, which is making money. So you can see how those 2 have to go together. And I think as we grow and we develop our skills as tradesmen and as businessmen and just as people in general, we have to master both of those things. The art of delayed gratification with keeping our money and using it wisely, but also realizing there's a time for taking risks and increasing our skill set and increasing our value so that we make more money. Then the 3rd, growing money, I can't say I know as much about that. I think that's the one that's tricky for all of us, but that's incredibly important too, because you could also master this art of making money and keeping money, but then whenever you go to grow your money, if you lose it all, and it's all in vain. So across this whole spectrum, it's really important. You know, as I sat here today and I did my books and I thought back, I've been in business for myself for 8 years, and I was just reminiscing a little bit, and I actually went up into my storage room and I dug out my old tax returns from whenever I was working as an employee. And in 2012, my tax return, which was whenever I was working for somebody else, my W-2 showed $29,200 some. So I was married, trying to get going, trying to make a life at that point, and that is hard to do on $29,000, let me tell you. And it's not to knock anybody, but it's just tough to raise a family on $13 an hour. So I recognized I had to do something about lesson number 1. We had no lesson number 2 down. We were extremely frugal, but it was going to be a hard road ahead on $29,000 a year. So I knew that I had to increase my value. I had to make moves, take risks, and really develop those skills of category number 1 of making money. That's really important. So part of my mission with this channel, I know that there are all kinds of people that watch these videos as far as do-it-yourselfers, homeowners, but my primary thrust and vision whenever I started this channel was to educate other guys like me who weren't as far along, who were 10 years behind me, to help give them the knowledge and the skills so that they could go out and increase that category number 1 of making money, whether they were going to be business owners or were business owners or were employees. Trade skills are extremely important, and I feel like we just take way too long in the way we develop those trade skills. Whereas if you're autodidactic, if you're self-taught, if you're a self-learner, you can increase your ability to make money and your income potential exponentially if somebody kind of just shows you the way a little bit. So just a little encouragement to the young guys or whoever would be watching to keep your eyes on that category number 1. It's important. Keep developing your skills, your trade skills, your business skills, your personal finance skills, personal development skills. It's all really important. So after category number 1 or skill number 1 of making money, let's take a look at skill number 2 of keeping money. A lot of us are in the Instagram community and we love to look at other businesses, look at other tradesmen, and that's great. It's incredibly motivating, but it's also has the opportunity to be really deceiving because you can't see those guys' income statements. You can't see their tax returns. And as tradesmen, a lot of guys don't develop those financial skills to manage money well, to invest well, to buy the tools that you actually need that will make you money versus all the glittery tools that are cool and are fun to have but aren't necessarily profitable. So I just want to encourage everybody, delayed gratification is essential to be successful as a tradesman. Like I said, in 2012, I was making $29,000 a year. Today, we delayed gratification. We worked hard, weren't perfect by any means, but put money into the right things, the right tools, and we paid off all our debt. So no house debt, no business debt, no vehicle debt, no nothing. And that opens up so many doors as a business. It gives you autonomy. It's just an incredible thing to be able to be frugal and to spend less than you make and create that margin in your life. So skill number 2, keeping money, is also just incredibly important. And I see so many guys who are really just spending the money on their businesses, and that can be well and good, but it can also be a really bad habit over the long haul. So my encouragement is to take a step back and see, where are you at in this spectrum? Do you need to grow in being more frugal with your business, making sure that the dollars that you're spending are giving you a good return on investment? Or do you need to take a little bit more risk and raise your income potential in that skill number 1 of making money? I was working hard 10 years ago. You wouldn't have, I was a hard worker and I was very dedicated to my craft, but you have to take some risks along the way and build up your value and your skill set. So number 1 and number 2 are really important. Making money and keeping money. I'm a huge advocate of QuickBooks Pro. I use the desktop version. I say all the time, QuickBooks is my most powerful tool because it gives me snapshots of where my business is now, where it's been, where it's going. And one of the things I always like to do is print out my profit and loss statements and just reflect on those. And I've actually got 7 years of profit and loss statements printed off here, and it's just so interesting to be able to have hindsight now and look back on the things I feel like I did right, the things I feel like I did wrong, and it's really just brought a lot of clarity to me around these three skills of making money, keeping money, and growing money, and how as we evolve we put more emphasis on those different skills. You know, back in year one of my business, making money was the big thing. I mean, you're investing, you're trying to buy the tools that you need that are going to take your income potential from right here as a guy with nothing up to here as a business owner, armed with tools and armed with a good skill set. And that's where we want to be. That requires delayed gratification. So again, just trying to find that right, correct spot in that paradigm. We're all going to be different. There is no right answer. It's an evolution that takes place. And as I look back on these profit and loss statements, I look back at what the money that I spent on tools, for example, those first couple years, the income, I was taking a bare bones McDonald's wage out of my company because I was trying to increase my income potential. At the same time, during those years, I was spending a lot of money on tools, investing. You could even put that in this skill number 3 of growing your money. If you can spend your dollars on things that are going to help you make more dollars, that's growth. It's not necessarily a long-term passive investment, but it is using your dollars to grow. So that's really important. And I look back at the same time on my top line on these profit and loss statements, it's went up every year. And with that investment, income also went up, and that's the way it should be. But then the tricky thing about all this is, you know, I hit a time period where then those dollars that I was putting into the business on tools, I was not getting a return on investment because I had the tools that I needed to do my job well, and spending the big bucks on the big fancy stuff, it wasn't actually giving me a good return on investment. So like this year, I'm in year 8 of my business. I spent very little money on tools, especially compared to those first few years, because the paradigm changes, the evolution changes, and it makes more sense to focus on that skill number 2 of keeping the money that you're making. Because if we're just work and increasing our expenses and our costs to run our business, we're just a hamster on a wheel in that rat race, and that's just pointless. For me, I don't care about having a gigantic business. I care about autonomy, being able to have control of my life, of my business, of my finances, to do what I want, when I want. So that's what drives me. I think that is also what drives a lot of you who watch this channel. As tradesmen, I don't think a lot of us necessarily want to have these gigantic businesses. We're just trying to create a nice, stable life for our families, so that we can do what we want, when we want, how we want, and have a comfortable lifestyle in the process. So as we're at the end of a year going into a new year, one of the things that I always do is take a look at my profit and loss statement at the end of the year, and I look for areas where I can trim the fat, areas where I made dumb decisions. Maybe it's I'm paying too much for insurance, I'm paying too much for this expense, too much for vehicles, too much for gas. And the big one probably for a lot of us is tools that we don't need, items that we didn't bill for that we should have. All those things, I try and analyze that at the end of the year and trim the fat. So that's a skill number 2, keeping money. Take a look at your profit and loss statements and try and analyze where could you do better next year. Skill number 2, keeping money. The world we live in today, especially those of us who live in the United States, it is a debt-saturated country. And the views on debt and the acceptance of debt is so widespread, but the math so often doesn't make sense. Now, I'm not completely anti-debt. I've had debt before. I've had debt to start my business. But the important thing is to realize you got to get that paid off as soon as you can, and realize that that debt money is so easy to spend that money, versus if you save for something, it's going to force you to make a much wiser decision on how you spend that money. The other thing is you want to talk about the ability to grow money. You've got to have margin in your finances. You can't grow money if you don't have any money to invest. Whenever you combine skill 1, making money, with skill 2, keeping money, that creates margin. That means you have financial space, you've got extra cash, and that's what it takes for skill number 3 of growing money. So debt, leases, all that stuff, wasteful spending will keep you from ever having that margin to cultivate skill number 3 of growing money. So whenever we take skill number 1 of making money plus skill number 2 of keeping money, that gives us the foundation of which we can build skill number 3 on top of, which is growing money. It gives us margin. And so my next encouragement as you look at your business this year, there's 2 metrics that I'm looking at personally. And one is, they're both my savings rate. That is not a popular concept in today's world. That's not going to get you a bunch of likes on Instagram or be a popular topic of conversation. It's not really attractive. But savings rate, how many dollars a year can you put back into savings, into investments, would be one of those metrics that I'm looking at. And then the other metric would be savings rate as a percentage. And ideally, we want to see those 2 metrics, total dollars saved and total percentage of our income saved, go up every year after our business kind of reaches a nice cruising speed. You know, the first years of your business, that's going to be hard because you're just investing like crazy to increase that income potential. But eventually we want to get to the point where we're no longer that hamster on the wheel running around and around and around, and our businesses are actually working for us, or our careers are actually working for us, and we're not just a slave to them. So look at your savings rate, how many dollars can you save, and your savings percentage rate as a percentage of your total income, how much are you saving, and try and focus on that and grow that. But again, as we talk about savings rate, we have to go back and revisit these skills of skill number 1, making money, and skill number 2, keeping money, saving money. Because if your income is not good, if it's not increasing, then your savings rate is not going to be very much. Back whenever I was making $29,000 a year, my savings rate was pretty much diddly squat, because it took every dollar I had to live, even living frugally. I remember my take-home pay for a month was like $2,000 or $2,200, and my expenses were $2,000. You know, that's living bare bones in America today. So you weren't going to be able to get ahead on skill number 3 in that spot. So I had to focus on skill number 1 while maintaining skill number 2 as much as possible. So keep that in mind. It's a balancing act. These 3 skills are just a constant balancing act and evolution. I do want to give encouragement to those of you who are watching who are not business owners, who are working for somebody else, who are employees. You might think, well, no, none of this applies to me, and it actually does. Instead of looking at the dollars, look at your skills. Are you increasing your skills? Because we tend to look in America as somebody who is having success as if it just happened overnight. And it's probably nowhere so true as in the trades that you gotta put in your time and develop your skill sets. I've been in the trades for 16 years, been in business for 8 years. Those whole 8 years up to when I started my business, I never made a respectable wage. It's just the reality. I'm not saying it's right, it's just the reality of the situation most tradesmen find themselves in. But in hindsight, looking back, I still was just as dedicated to growing my skills in those years, from the time I was 16 years old to 25 years old, as I am now. And even though my income didn't reflect that growth was still real and it's still there. So just realize it takes time. So be patient, stay dedicated to growing your skills, look for opportunities to increase your income potential, and whether that's as an employee or as somebody who's going to start a business someday, just keep pressing forward in that. So last thing, I've got some books here that have been a real encouragement to me over the years in my journey, as I wanted to do well in personal finances and in business finances for my family. So a few recommendations that will encourage you on this path. This is a book I actually just recently got. It's a fairly new book. It's called The Psychology of Money. Fantastic book, very down to earth. And the author's thrust is for autonomy, for self-governance, being able to do what you want when you want. It's not a book about getting as rich as possible. It's a book about being able to manage your finances in a way so that you can get to the point where you get to do whatever you want, whenever you want. So very good book. The Compound Effect. This isn't a financial book per se, but the principle of increasing your skills over time, every day adding to your skills, every day adding to your savings, so on and so forth. None of these things happen all at once. It takes years, and understanding how the compound effect works is really important in life and in growing a business. The Richest Man in Babylon, that's a classic. I haven't read it in a while, but that's a really good book. Very short, easy read. The Millionaire Mind and The Millionaire Next Door, these are by the same author. Millionaire Next Door basically destroys every lie that society would have us believe about what a millionaire is. The reality is that almost all millionaires are frugal people who had good financial principles and were disciplined over a long period of time. And this just knocks down a lot of the myths about money and shows you the path to financial freedom. So another really good one. And Dave Ramsey, the Total Money Makeover, I don't go along with every single thing Dave says, but he has been very encouraging to me and my wife over the years as we've just tried to establish ourselves. He gives you great principles on savings, of getting your emergency funds, of getting out of debt, and all those things are so important to finding financial freedom, or what he would call financial peace. So great guy, great book. I also recommend his radio show, just for some encouragement here and there to stay focused on getting out of debt, because for me, being out of debt for a couple years now entirely, it's wonderful, it's very freeing and great. So another great guy doing great things for people. I hope you guys enjoyed the videos. This is a little bit different, but I was just here doing my own books and kind of felt I had a lot of these thoughts. I thought I'd make a good video. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Again, thanks for a great year. Thanks for watching, and we'll look forward to a good 2021.